This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Bleck and Abdalla on Westwood One Sports. Here's Chris Bleck and Adam Abdalla.
Welcome in to Bleck and Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. You can also listen to us on SiriusXM Channel 375 and all of our great radio affiliates across the country. Live from Chicago, I'm Chris Bleck. Today, Sean Little filling in for Adam Abdalla here on Bleck and Abdalla. If you want to join the show, you can call us at 310-840-4910. Lots to get to today. Day 4 of the NFL Scouting Combine. Today's a day where actually we see individuals on the field doing things. So the defensive line, the linebackers, kickers, all participating today at the NFL Combine. And Sean, as we get things started, there's a lot going on in the NFL and even a big trade this morning between the Jets and the Titans.
It never stops in the National Football League, that's for sure. And what makes the NFL special is it's actually big news when the Jets and the Titans make a trade.
Yeah.
You could see a bottom dweller team in the NBA make a trade or other leagues, and it's like no one blinks an eye. This is news and something we'll talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, a part of some of the conversation that we've had here on the show in the last couple of weeks is there are more than a few teams, like almost half the league in the NFL, that need help from pass rushers. And so, like, there are two big names out there, Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby, that everyone has their eyes on to try and figure out whether or not those guys will be traded here in this offseason. So the Jets and the Titans, they make a rare player-for-player trade today. The Jets are sending pass rusher Jermaine Johnson to Tennessee for defensive tackle DeAndre Sweat. Both good young players. The difference, though, and I think the thing to point out is Jermaine Johnson was with Robert Saleh when he was drafted, former first-round pick, and that eliminates Tennessee from the teams looking for help on the defensive line as an edge rusher. As we enter all of this conversation around, will Max Crosby be traded? What happens with Trey Hendrickson? And kind of trying to figure out the different dominoes to fall. And like I said, like almost half the league needs help on the edge rushing side of things heading into the offseason. So a big trade already in the NFL today.
My favorite word in the NFL or any just free agency stuff is disgruntled. So anytime I bring up Max Crosby, you have to say the disgruntled Max Crosby. You have to say the disgruntled Trey Hendrickson. So, yeah, both those guys should be on the move, deserve to be on the move if they're trying to get out and get a fresh start, and will be able to impact quite a few squads across the league.
You know what's funny about that, the disgruntled side of it, is we've talked about it here on the show that Max Crosby is trying to balance being disgruntled and also being the guy that wants to be in Las Vegas long term, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a tough balance to kind of have. And working for NBA TV like you do, you know the storyline in the NBA this year. There's one specific guy that has been trying to balance it, which I think he's kind of phony about.
He's disgruntled.
It's Giannis Antetokounmpo.
No doubt.
He's out there, and there's reports that he wants out of Milwaukee, but then he's trying to push back publicly, saying that those aren't true. I want to be with the Bucks long term. And like I said, it's a difficult balance to strike, being the guy that's a disgruntled star player, but also they want to get out of town.
Yeah, there's disgruntled James Harden. That's a specific disgruntled, and then there's a Giannis Antetokounmpo that's disgruntled. They're different levels, but yeah, man, when you are a major star like a lot of these guys that we're naming that have continued to impact for multiple years straight, you just have to use that leverage. Like the disgruntled thing is something you can use as leverage. James Harden has mastered that, and when we talk about the Jermaine Johnson to the Titans piece, what's interesting is it just makes sense for both sides.
Yeah.
So Saleh's going to run a 4-3 like he has his entire career from San Francisco to the Jets, back to San Francisco, and now to Tennessee. Jermaine Johnson fills out that spot. And then on the flip side, the Jets are going to run a 3-4. So they get a big guy in the middle, 6'4", 366. And if you're listed at 366, Bleck, you know what that means.
You're actually probably
You're
bigger.
about 385.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If if you're okay with them putting you down at 366, you weigh about 390. So he's going to be able to take up a lot of space on the flip side for a 3-4 defense where you need that that big body, that big presence to get the double team and stop up and clog out some of those holes. So a good swap for both squads.
It's like, yeah, sure. Wemby's only 7'2". Yeah, okay.
Sure.
I'll believe that. No chance at all. I used to cover college basketball and call games on radio and TV, and I would always look through the rosters, and you would see some names, and then you'd be like, hey, I think it's that guy. And it'd say like 6'2", and then I'd be like, man, I'm 5'10".
Right.
And on a good hair day, I'm maybe 5'11". And these guys are like looking at me straight in the eye. I'm like, there's no way he's 6'1", 6'2". Like, everyone lies.
It's just not true.
Every team lies about the weight and the height for all of their players.
Absolutely.
It's so funny. It's Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean Little in for Abdalla today, hanging out for the next 3 hours until 3 Eastern, and that's when Jim Rome will take over right here on Westwood One Sports. So you mentioned the disgruntled Max Crosby.
Yeah.
We also have the disgruntled Kyler Murray. And that's a big story today also as we are taking a look at the NFL and the Combine. Fox Sports is reporting that Kyler Murray's camp would prefer for the Cardinals to cut him and to release him because they know he will be the top quarterback on the free agent market instead of them trying to figure out a trade, which is not something that Kyler would be in control of. And we had the report a couple weeks ago from Adam Schefter saying that the Cardinals and the Dolphins were looking to trade both of their quarterbacks, Tua Tagovailoa and then Kyler Murray. So the reports today, Kyler Murray's camp would like the Cardinals to release him. And at that point, Kyler Murray will be the best available player on the open market if and when the Cardinals were able to do that.
Without question, because, first off, I would like my fiance to cut me for Beyonce. I would like a lot of things, right? Like, I get that.
Does she know this? Is she aware of this?
She would understand.
Okay.
She would get it.
All
you
right.
understand what I'm saying?
Sometimes it works that way. I think with ours, it's Jennifer Aniston.
Okay. See,
if I think we both would agree that, heck, just add her to the team.
We'd be fine with that. And by the way, my fiance, I'm sure, has one that she would shake my hand and see me out the door for as well, right?
Yeah,
so it is what it is. But when we talk about the situation, when we get down to the nuts and bolts of it, of course he would want to get cut because that's the best option for him for the team selection portion of it, right? Because if he gets cut, it then turns into the Russell Wilson situation where he still gets paid his full dollar amount and then he gets to go to a team for a super small amount. I said simply, this is from NFL.com.
Yep.
The Cardinals cut him before March. They're not on the hook for any of his 2027 salary.
Yep.
The release triggers a $57.7 million cap hit that can be split up between multiple years. But if they don't trade him, or if they do trade him and don't release him, it's only an $18 million cap hit. So the idea of cutting him should be completely off the table. We gave you a bunch of money. I think he's been paid $140+ million of that already. This is where you have to look out for the Cardinals and the organization and figure out a way to trade Kyler Murray. Are you going to lose leverage? Of course, because every GM in the league knows this. Of course. But when you miss on a big time deal like they missed with Kyler Murray, you have to eat crow, and that's the situation they're in right now.
Especially when you're in this spot with a new coaching staff and you want to wipe clean of what the previous group kind of put together. And like here, Sean, the thing that I struggle with this just as a football fan is I agree with the assessment that if Kyler Murray is released, he will be the best player on the market. Think about some of the crazy conversations we've had this week about Malik Willis. What are we talking about? Malik Willis is not going to – okay, let me phrase this correctly. He may be a starting quarterback in the NFL and someone may overpay for him, but he's not going to be a good starting quarterback in the NFL. That's not something that I've watched him play. He doesn't have the same talent as Kyler. If Kyler is released and is available, he will be the best player on the open market. And Kyler then can choose to go to a situation that may fit him perfectly. One of those teams could be Minnesota. And I think that would make a lot of sense, especially if you want to connect storylines to what we saw last year. Sam Darnold in Seattle worked perfectly. It's just the perfect setup for a guy that was bouncing around the league, who had a lot of talent. You ask him to be decent for most of the games. He doesn't have to be great. Sometimes he blows up. It doesn't matter because their defense is so good. The Minnesota Vikings clearly have the stability, and they've got a great coach who can get the most out of a quarterback. So Kyler absolutely would want to pick for himself because, like, what if those two teams I was talking about, Miami and Arizona, say, all right, let's just swap our quarterbacks. All right, Kyler is then in Miami with a team that's essentially tanking. That he's not going to be happy. You send Kyler Murray to the New York Jets, they're not going to be any good. Aaron Glenn is probably going to get fired after next season. So then they're starting over all again. And then you get a new head coaching staff who doesn't want Kyler Murray, and then they're moving him. You know, like, there's only a limited amount of spots where you could see Kyler going to and having a lot of success this upcoming season. So, of course, he wants to be the one that's dictating where he goes. And it's also kind of silly, I think, the way that you have to just wipe everything clean. I don't understand, like, Kyler Murray's, I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's great. I think maybe his personality needs to be, or his approach needs to be adjusted a little bit to the game, and to look at those who are doing it at the highest level and show that level of dedication. Because I believe the Fox story also points out that some of the concerns with the team have been his inability to be a true leader, whatever they
Which have always been there, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. And we also know that with the conversations of, like, they had to put a clause in his contract so he didn't play video games.
Yeah, study sessions. Mandatory study sessions was what it was called.
And when you have to do that, then I am putting that player on blast. It is up to you to be a professional. We're having that same conversation right now in the league about Lamar Jackson. And we'll get to that later on in the show, but Lamar has all of the talent in the world. He's won the MVP twice. He's almost gotten there to win a Super Bowl. But then there's concerns that he's never available for the offseason programs. He doesn't want to practice throughout the season. Is he a true leader? So, you know, with Kyler Murray, of course, it makes a lot of sense that he wants the Cardinals to release him. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why the story today, he wants it. He's disgruntled. That doesn't mean the Cardinals need to do that. The Cardinals should not release him. They should hold on to him, and then they should trade him for whatever they can get back.
The direct line to the front office for Kyler Murray should be closed. The pick up the phone and, hey, Kyler, what can I do for you? That line should be defunct and closed out, right?
Yeah.
Bleck, you saying him, if he hit the market, he would be the best of quarterback option.
Yeah.
I agree with you in the sense that the only reason that's the case is because you could sign him for the minimum. Him at $45 million, what he's making right now, $46 million, wouldn't make him the best option. That's where it gets a little sticky. If you could get Kyler Murray for $3 million and take a flyer on what he'll look like, then he's absolutely a great option. And if there's one guy I trust in the league today, it's Kevin O'Connell to figure out and evaluate quarterback talent and if they could make it and win enough games and he could be a viable option. I think deep down, there was a lot of things going back and forth with O'Connell and the front office for Minnesota. I think deep down, O'Connell wanted to keep Sam Darnold.
I could see that.
Every time I heard him open his mouth, he had to back JJ because that was the direction that it was going. Yeah. But it's like, man, I have a proven product here. We just won a ton of ball games.
Yeah.
Our defense is good enough. It's going to continue to be good enough. I also have to worry about keeping Jet Jefferson happy because we're like 3 or 4 weeks away next season for Justin Jefferson being what's he going to be?
Disgruntled.
Disgruntled.
He'll be disgruntled.
He's going to be a disgruntled Justin Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a real big issue on your hands because then in the NFL, Bleck, you know it. Everyone listening knows that watches the NFL on a consistent basis. You are closer to a rebuild than you think. A couple things can go wrong. All of a sudden, that defense is older. It needs to get broken down. Your best player, you can argue, is the best player at that position in Justin Jefferson in the NFL, is now disgruntled. You don't have a quarterback. Now it's completely, you're at the studs and trying to rebuild.
All right, so this is from ESPN Television. Dan Orlovsky was talking about the options out there on the quarterback market and what the Minnesota Vikings should do at quarterback next season. Here's Orlovsky.
The totem pole should be Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray. That should be the order for the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Rodgers, still capable of playing good football. Kirk Cousins, I thought, played good football when he started last year. And then Kyler Murray is still so talented that if you don't get one of those two, he's the guy.
What is he talking about? That's Dan Orlovsky on ESPN television. First of all, and we can debate it. I could understand for one season, Aaron Rodgers is better than Kyler Murray. If I'm building a team long term, Kyler has the long term upside that Aaron Rodgers does not give you. So I think it's a toss up between Kyler and Aaron Rodgers. But to what Dan is suggesting, Dan Orlovsky, it's Bleck and Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. Sean Little in for Abdalla today. What Orlovsky is suggesting is that Aaron Rodgers is going to go somewhere other than Pittsburgh. He's going to go to Pittsburgh. If he plays, he's going to Pittsburgh. I think that's established. I would be shocked if he was playing for someone else this upcoming season. If he's not playing for the Steelers, he's somewhere off doing ayahuasca. He's not playing football. Okay, so that's one. So if we want to debate Kyler or Rodgers, that's fair. You can call us at 310-840-4910. But what the hell is Orlovsky talking about? Kirk Cousins over Kyler Murray? Come on now. That's not real.
No, it's not real. Kirk Cousins is completely dust from what I've seen over the last coming off of the Achilles. It's just not there. And we're talking about if you're going to go stopgap.
Yeah.
If Aaron Rodgers is an option, that's a better option than Kirk Cousins. I agree. The key here is what dollar amount am I going to get Kyler Murray at? If he gets cut and I can get him for that minimum, sign me up.
Yeah.
If I have to trade draft capital for Kyler Murray to get a look, and I also have to pay him $46 million a year, this is a completely different conversation. Kyler Murray falls to the bottom of the list of guys I'm interested in at that number. So now they're a perfect candidate for a stopgap guy like Aaron Rodgers. So
yes, they are. Yeah,
they're a perfect candidate for a 1-year look. This is why you have to figure out. Man, that Sam Darnold deal looks sparkling now. J.J. McCarthy, you probably could have got off of J.J. McCarthy and got a first-round pick from someone on a complete robbery.
Or you could have selected a player there, right? Like instead of J.J. McCarthy. I mean, people had their concerns of McCarthy coming out of Michigan, just the fact that Michigan won not because of his arm, it was because of their defense and their run game and all their other talented players. It's Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean Little filling in for Abdalla today, hanging out for the next couple hours. What do the Raiders want from Max Crosby? We have some intel on what the Raiders are looking for in a trade for Crosby. We'll tell you about that next.
How long will the Steelers wait for a decision from Aaron Rodgers? Or could Mike McCarthy and company be in the market for a QB like Malik Willis in free agency? Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Bleck and Abdalla on Westwood One Sports. Here's Chris Bleck and Adam Abdalla.
All right, so what do the Vegas Raiders want for Max Crosby? Pro Football Talk is reporting that the Raiders want 2 first-round picks and a player for Max Crosby. That's what the Dallas Cowboys got from Micah Parsons. I'm Chris Bleck along today with Sean Little. It's Bleck and Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. Sean is filling in for Abdalla today as we're hanging out talking to you at 310-840-4910. So 2 first-round picks and a player for Max Crosby. Originally, Sean, I thought that would be a little much. I thought that Max Crosby would likely get 1 pick and a player. And I think that would be the asking price, just because I think if we're looking at the caliber of player, the age, where they're at in their career, this is not Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons being traded last offseason, I was making the argument that he's the best non-quarterback football player in the entire league. And I think it stands true. If he's healthy, Micah Parsons is that big of a difference maker. And that's not meant to throw shade at Max Crosby. I think that's just the harsh reality. So if the Raiders are asking for that, is this just a tactic to get that out there now, hoping that someone's desperate and they do give you 2 first-round picks and a player, or eventually it will come back in negotiations and the Raiders will trade Crosby for 1 pick and a player. How do you think this plays out?
Well, let me ask you this. I'll kick it right back to you.
Yep.
Did Green Bay get off light? Did they win that deal? Was that enough? Because I felt like when that came over the ticker, I was like, oh, Green Bay got over.
I think it is, because with the way it works, and I think the way it played out is a perfect example. The Cowboys defense is still the worst in the league. So now that's something that they're backpedaling and they're trying to figure out this offseason. And we've even seen people suggest that Dallas should be the team that goes after Max Crosby. So if that's the case, if Dallas is using the 20th pick overall, which is a pick that they got from the Packers in the Micah Parsons trade, to then trade it for Max Crosby, aren't you getting back to exactly the same spot you were in last year, but you have a lesser player? So I think that I think the Packers gave up the right amount to get Micah, because then Micah going out essentially submarined their season at the end. A healthy Micah Parsons is one of the best players in football. But Green Bay then, they fizzled at the end of the season. So, I guess that's where my perspective would say you can never guarantee health in the NFL. So he may be caliber-wise the type of player that could demand maybe 3 first-round picks,
sure,
or even more. But I do think it was a pretty fair trade, and the Cowboys now are trying to change that this offseason. So I think maybe it's to be determined. How do they use that extra pick? Do they take a player at 20? Do they stand there? Do they trade? Do they franchise tag George Pickens and then pair that with the 20th pick? I think there's a lot on the table for the Cowboys.
So now to go back to answer your question, I think it is just Las Vegas trying to put something in the market, say, hey, this is what we expect. Don't pick up the phone and call us with some nonsense like a two twos and whoever, right? So we're just letting you know we could start a little conversation around ones. Now, in the NFL, 2 first-round picks is a big, big, big ask, especially for a guy that wants to get out of town. There's always context around this stuff and these deals. Max Crosby can help suitors by saying, yo, listen, I am not going to be around. I'm not coming back to Vegas regardless, right? Then things start to change. Does he feel like he owes the Raiders organization more than that and Mark Davis more than that? Maybe. So maybe he doesn't want to go down that route. There's not very many people that you can legitimately ask for 2 first-round picks and a player for. I think Max Crosby is borderline, but he's still 28 years old. Bears fans, I was at the game in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He essentially destroyed us in the entire first half. We had no motion because of one guy, and we had to block one guy. Everyone knew who that guy was, and we couldn't slow him up. He's relentless. He's a real deal guy. And for me, Bleck, when you rank needs in the NFL, it's quarterback, it's left tackle, it's edge rusher. In that order for me. Then you could start talking about maybe a lockdown corner at 4.
Yeah, in the way I've always kind of viewed modern team building is you got to get a quarterback, you got to get weapons for your quarterback, and you got to get someone to get after the quarterback. And you're right, left tackle is a huge deal, and I feel like we've seen some teams patchwork that, but you can always tell a team that goes cheap on the left tackle because those are the quarterbacks that are always getting hit. Those are the quarterbacks who are like young guys who are struggling, but they have talent, and it's like, do you blame the infrastructure around them, or is it because they have a left tackle who can't play, who's a turnstile over there?
Yeah.
And I think that, and what's funny about that is we're both broadcasting from Chicago, and we both are from Chicago, and we both are Chicago Bears fans. And I think that's why there is an element of connecting the dots between Chicago and Vegas, because most people who watch the Chicago Bears on a week-to-week basis, they know what happened in Vegas. And what happened in Vegas didn't stay there because Max Crosby dominated that game. And it was the setup and the aftermath of that game. Chicago won. They blocked a field goal at the end to win a game to kind of save their season. It was teetering early in the year. I was at that game too. It was a blast.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Amazing stadium. But I would say this. When you look at the way the Bears talked about Max Crosby before the game, they were well aware of his talent. Ben Johnson spoke him up before the game. During the game, in the first half, he stopped everything the Chicago Bears in the first half tried to do. Max Crosby had a hand in it, tipping a pass, disrupting a play, tackles in the backfield, hitting the quarterback. He did everything. He was everywhere. It was like there were four of him out there on the field. And then after the game, the way Caleb Williams talked about Max Crosby, he said that was the best player he's ever played against. Now, again, he played against more teams that season, and he had a full rookie season. But he said college pro, Max Crosby was the best player I've ever gone against. He didn't say that about Micah Parsons. Now, you could connect those dots locally because people want Max Crosby. And then also, there was that podcast that was dropped last week where Caleb and Crosby seem to be buddy-buddy. Which is cool. I think it's a lot of wishful thinking from local Chicago Bears fans. I personally would think it would be great if they could get that done. But unfortunately, from Chicago's perspective, they're not the only team that's going to be vying for Max Crosby's services. And I mentioned about 30 minutes ago that this offseason, there's about 11 teams in the league, and maybe we can cross Tennessee off today because they made the trade with the Jets. So there's like 10 teams looking for help on the defensive line to get after the quarterback. A couple of those teams are teams in their championship windows, like Kansas City, San Francisco. Washington is on the same level as Chicago. Both teams have made the playoffs in recent years, and they're looking to bounce back. So I think there's a lot of dots that connect. I would feel like it's too rich to give up 2 first-round picks and a player for Max Crosby.
Because there's a lot of holes that the Chicago Bears still need to fill. Now,
yeah. And for any, like even Kansas City or San Francisco, if you're in that situation and you need an edge rusher, I would just say, okay, I've got my quarterback. I'm using my first-round draft pick to get my edge rusher. And I'm believing in my scouting department. That's how we're going to get this done.
How about get it done without giving up 2 1s? Figure it out. Figure a way to get it done. Give up a 1, give up a couple players, some cash, whatever you have to do to figure out a way to get a guy like Max Crosby. Because, Bleck, there's nothing more that I hate when I'm supporting a team with my all in all is when we have a glaring need and we show up to the season with it unaddressed.
Right.
Like last year, we could be sitting in these exact seats in Chicago downtown. I would ask you, Bleck, what do the Bears need? Edge rushing.
Edge rusher.
We went into the season without any D-line that are going to create havoc and game change like we thought Montez Sweat would and showed flashes of doing. We sit here today going into the season, the number one priority is edge rushing and figuring out a way to bolster the defensive line. It has to be addressed.
Yeah,
this would be multiple years in a row that it's clear what the club needs, and we and Poles and the gang don't go get it done. So if it's Max Crosby, phenomenal, but go impact that side of the ball.
Well, and I think the perfect example of what you're talking about is what we saw play out in real time this season with the Los Angeles Rams. The entire season, their special teams was the problem. And we saw that in the NFC Championship game. You know, we saw the Rams special teams unit get just bullied over by Seattle. And Seattle was able to get to the Super Bowl and to win it. And for most of the season, I thought that the Rams were the best team in football. They just didn't necessarily put it together at the end. But then it's like they also fired their special teams coordinator midway through the season. This was an issue that they were having the entire season. So, Sean, you're right. Like, when you're a fan of a team and you know what the biggest weakness is and the team doesn't do something to change that, that's so frustrating in sports. It absolutely is.
Now, if you really want to get granular, you believe in Caleb Williams just like I do.
Yep.
Now, do 2 1s and a player sound as expensive Now that we know Caleb can play, he's going to be a top 6-7 quarterback in the NFL next year for my money, and he's still on the rookie deal. So now if we start getting really granular, it's like maybe it might be worth 2 ones in a player if we could get Max in to impact over the next 2 years while that Caleb money doesn't kick in until the following.
Yeah.
That's where you have to start weighing out what's worth 2 ones, what isn't, because along with me being really frustrated about when your club doesn't I get really disgruntled when my club doesn't address an obvious need. I also hate to see what happens to guys like Patrick Mahomes, where we get sold a bag of Rashee Rice as a difference maker along with Juju Smith-Schuster, along with an old Travis Kelce. In all sincerity, go get my guy some weapons. He's the guy.
Yeah, and to answer that question, Sean Little hanging out, Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Abdalla is off today. To answer that, I don't want to do that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't give up 2 first-round picks because the way my head is looking at this Chicago situation in the future is I agree. The Bears have their quarterback. They have their head coach. In my head, this is going to last for a while. And so I'm not viewing this offseason as we have to win a Super Bowl in this next year or else. I'm hoping for sustained success. And so I'm okay giving up 1 first-round draft pick and a player for Max Crosby. Once you start adding a second first-round pick or more draft capital to it, now you're looking at a situation where you kind of have to win now. And we've seen that very team, that kind of mindset backfire in the past when they went after Khalil Mack. So I would just say, all right, fine. The Raiders are not interested.
Who was unbelievable, by the way, when he was engaged.
He was. But I would say, if the Raiders want more than a first-round pick and a player, then I would say, fine, go ahead. I'm going to draft my edge rusher at 25, and that's going to be the guy that's going to turn into Max Crosby at some point, and I'm going to do the work as an organization, and I'm going to draft well, which that's a whole different show on whether or not Ryan Poles drafts well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's, I think when you start attaching multiple first-round picks, that's how GMs get themselves into a bad spot.
You get behind the eight ball pretty quickly. They seem a little
desperate at that moment. And I think the Bears are finally in a spot where they don't have to be desperate building forward because they got the coach, they got the quarterback right. And at some point, they should be able to fix the defense. Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean Little from NBA TV hanging out with me today in for Abdalla. Todd Monken spoke at the Combine yesterday. He spoke highly about a quarterback. Which quarterback on the Browns did he speak highly about? We'll tell you next.
There's some big names on the trade block. Jalen Waddle, Max Crosby, A.J. Brown. Where are they going? And how will the moves impact your team? We'll tell you as it happens. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
is Bleck and Abdalla on Westwood One Sports. Here's Chris Bleck and Adam Abdalla.
In for Abdalla today is Sean Little from NBA TV, hanging out with me for the next couple hours on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean, one of the biggest stories that I've kind of followed here in the NFL offseason is a storyline with Cleveland, the Browns, and what they will do at quarterback. It's this conversation and topic where we look at when you have 3, maybe 4 quarterbacks, you really don't have any quarterbacks. And I know last season some of that was due to players playing and getting time because of injury. But when you have Dylan Gabriel, you have Shedeur Sanders, 2 players that you drafted last season, Deshaun Watson still hanging around. The Cleveland Browns have a mess at quarterback. New head coach Todd Monken is there. Is he able to get something out of these players? I think is a storyline we need to follow throughout the offseason.
Hey, man, maybe that's why you don't draft 3 quarterbacks. Maybe that's why you don't have 5 quarterbacks that are all either rookies or extremely mediocre in the quarterback room. Maybe that's why you don't say, hey, we actually are thinking about playing Flacco to start the year, right, but we just drafted all these young guys. Like, maybe you don't jam up your next head coach like that. But we are here, and this is where we are with the Cleveland Browns. Now, I want to be clear here on Todd Monken. Todd, if you're listening, my brother.
Yeah, he's a big fan of the show.
You're 60 years old. If you want to have some fun and you want to scroll for a little bit, go to Todd Monken's Wikipedia page, and you could scroll for 10 minutes on all the positions he's had in football over his career.
We call those lifers.
We'll talk.
He's a coaching lifer.
Lifer, for sure. We'll go to LSU. We'll start there. 05-06 pass game coordinator. Then he goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's wide receiver coach. We'll skip down to the Bucks 2016-18. He's the offensive coordinator, wide receiver coach. Then he goes to Cleveland, offensive coordinator. Then he goes to Georgia, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach for 2 years. Then he goes to Baltimore. Now he's back to Cleveland. Listen, Todd, do whatever you think is right. This is going to be your only shot, my guy. You will not get another opportunity to be the head coach for an NFL team. Now, I say all that to say, in all seriousness, though, evaluate, look, if you think none of those guys are your guy, have the heart to be, hey, we're going to move off of these guys. I want to try something else. Maybe it's a quarterback we haven't even thought of yet. I think a lot of these decisions, anytime you half-step a decision in the NFL and you're not fully behind it, that's when you run into problems.
Yeah.
Now, we could talk about Pete Carroll moving to Russell Wilson as a rookie. We thought that was an asinine decision after they had paid all that money to blanking on
Matt Flynn.
To Matt Flynn.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, well, I don't understand. How could you give Matt Flynn that dollar and then start Russell Wilson? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But sometimes if that's the right decision, it seems hard at the time. It might be going against the grain. You got to do it. So, Todd, the experience is endless. You've seen guys like Lamar Jackson up close, and you've seen what a winning quarterback looks like. If he's not on the roster, don't charade around because his last name is Sanders, and I like Shador. Like, let's not get it twisted. But don't run a charade and lie to yourself. If you don't think he's the guy, figure out a way to get someone in the building that can win you some games because this is your time to shine as a head coach in the league.
You can like Shador. He's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's not. If you watch him play, you look at the stats, he is woefully overmatched to NFL defenses. And I think we saw that when he had his time, which I think is interesting that, like, he's walking around like he's a blank of the walk as their quarterback when it's like, dude, you were in because the other guys were hurt. And, like, okay, if they're going to go that path in this offseason, then I guess. So I asked the question before we went to commercial break, who did Todd Monken talk up at the Combine? What if he talked up multiple quarterbacks? Here's Todd Monken at the Combine yesterday talking about Deshaun Watson.
I think any time that you have a player that at one time has exhibited the skill set at an elite level, I think you're always going to give them the benefit of the doubt that somehow we might be able to get that out of them again. And I think that's how you should look at every player. I've said that. You guys have heard me say it. I'm going to let it play out. I think it'd be completely unfair, just like it would be in any classroom setting, be it a history exam, and all the students walk in, and before they're actually given the exam, you give them a grade. Well, how would you give them a grade? Based on male, female, race, how they look, how they're dressed? I think that's unfair.
What?
Now, you're going to have some preconceived notions, obviously, because we have prior evidence, but I don't decide who plays. The players decide who plays. I've never decided who plays.
All right, Todd Monken. As Sean says, this is your one chance to be a head coach in the NFL. What does Todd Monken at the Combine think of Shedeur Sanders?
I think what you see is elite playmaking ability. That's in him. You've seen it. We've seen it. You saw it in college. You saw it on tape last year. Sure, there's a ways to go, but what rookie isn't? I mean, what first-year player doesn't have a long way to go? So I'm excited to get started with him and all of our quarterbacks and all of our players.
All right, so hearing Todd Monken speak there, Sean is in for Abdalla today, Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. That means he doesn't know. He doesn't know who his quarterback is for the future. They'll have an open quarterback competition. It's a story we'll follow throughout training camp. I'm guessing all three of them won't be great. Like, this isn't going to be some solution where one guy shows up and he's all of a sudden fantastic and the Browns are off and running with a new head coach. And I think it's also one of those things, like Sean mentioned to me, that this is the one chance that Todd Monken gets. And it's true. it's also a job that nobody wanted. And you had high-level caliber coordinators and people looking for jobs in this offseason who said, I'll take something else because I don't want to be the Browns head coach. So we'll keep our eyes on that. It's Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean Little in for Abdalla today. We do have breaking news in the NFL. This comes to ESPN. The Indianapolis Colts have given quarterback Anthony Richardson permission to seek a trade given his uncertain future in Indy. Now, we know that the Colts are planning on giving a contract extension to Daniel Jones here in this offseason. That was reported earlier in the week that the two sides are talking. So with Anthony Richardson, much like what we're talking about with the scenario with the Colts, you have a young, talented quarterback who had a little bad luck last season. Like the fact that a elastic band snapped and hit him in the eye is one of the worst luck injuries I think I can remember as a sports fan. I mean, we've all been to the gym and we've all seen people using those stretchy bands at the gym. Could you imagine, Sean, if one just snapped right back at your face? Like that sucks. With that said, he also can't play. I was
wondering if you were going to get to that part.
I was going to say, like, the human side of me feels like really bad for Anthony Richardson. Like, that stinks. He also was someone who was drafted way too high, and he was drafted with the idea that his talent and his arm strength was going to outweigh what he was doing at Florida as a quarterback when he made bad decisions as a quarterback in college. So, of course, he's going to make bad decisions as a quarterback in the NFL. So that's the news coming across right now that the Colts are giving Anthony Richardson permission to seek a trade, which means in the NFL.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that they will likely, if they can't find a trade partner, they'll just release him.
There you go.
So he'll be someone who will be available for anyone to pick up.
We're trying to trade Anthony Richardson. If we can't get anything for him, we're going to cut him.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what it is.
Give it a rest, please.
Well, I mean, you'd like to get something back. Like if they could get a 6th or a 7th round pick back for a player that I think everyone sees as they're not going to use him going forward. And then on top of it, they're likely to release. It just is not going to work out for Anthony Richardson with Indy. I don't know. Like maybe he's a type of player. Now, I was saying that I wasn't sold on Malik Willis being the type of guy that could maybe rehab his career and kind of do what Sam Darnold has done or Baker Mayfield has done. I mean, Anthony Richardson was a high first-round draft pick. Is that the type of guy that a smart team who has a starting quarterback, takes a flyer on, bring him into our facility, have him sit behind, say, Matthew Stafford, and McVay coaches Richardson up, and then when Stafford leaves in a year or two, maybe you got a product there who could be a guy to take over at some point. I wonder if there's a good team that takes a flyer.
Yeah, or maybe it doesn't and it didn't cost you too much capital, either draft or dollars, and you can just both wipe your hands of it. There's only certain coaches in organizations that seem to be able to pull this off. It's McVay, it's Shanahan, it's LaFleur. I think I really like what he did with Malik Willis. He looked like a completely different guy coming from Tennessee. So
he did, yeah.
He could get in the situation where someone can get an actual look, and if he doesn't pan out for those guys, then it's like, all right, maybe he can't play. But it's tough to write off young quarterbacks. Like Shador, I still think if he was a rookie, he still has a lot of room to be able to show that he could play in this league. We've seen guys come through down the road, but Richardson didn't dominate in college, and it's tough to say he's going to continue to dominate or have a chance to dominate in the pros.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I understand with Malik Willis. He looked good with the Packers, but they have an infrastructure there.
Yeah.
And that's what I worry about Willis. Going to one of the bottom feeders, he's not going to have that same setup. What's going on with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson? We'll talk about that coming up next.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Bleck and Abdalla on Westwood One Sports. Here's Chris Bleck and Adam Abdalla.
That's right, noon to 3 Eastern each and every weekday here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. You can also listen to us on SiriusXM Channel 375 and all of our great radio affiliates across the country, broadcasting live from Chicago. I'm Chris Bleck today with Sean Little from NBA TV. He's in for Abdalla. If you want to join the show today, you can call us at 310-840-4910. Lots going on in the NFL. Day 4 of the NFL Combine. We have our eyes on that. We've got players on the field today, finally, at the Combine. It's not just taking measurements of players' hands and whatnot, Sean. But today, you have the defensive linemen out on the field. You have the linebackers working out. Kickers work out today. So the action at the Combine gets going today, and we're talking a lot of football here on the show. And one of those topics that I think is worth watching throughout the offseason is what's going on in Baltimore. New head coach Jesse Minter is now there with a fresh start with a team that should have been in the playoffs. If they didn't get off to a 1-5 start last season, Baltimore should have been a team that was trying to compete for a Super Bowl, and they missed the playoffs. We saw the missed field goal at the end of the game against the Steelers in the final game of the regular season. And then that was a domino effect setting off where the Ravens go in a new direction. John Harbaugh is let go. The Ravens were very clear in letting everyone know that it was their decision, that they wanted John Harbaugh no longer as their head coach. He gets the gig with the Giants. And Jesse Minter, who has been in the conversation about getting a head coaching job here now for a couple of cycles, gets the gig as the new head coach. There's a new offensive coordinator. Declan Doyle is there with Jesse Minter. And that conversation is all about getting the most out of Lamar Jackson, one of the most talented players in the NFL. He's won the MVP twice, but there is still more for Lamar Jackson to achieve. And whether or not Minter can get that out of Lamar Jackson, I think is a fascinating storyline to watch here in this offseason.
You could say Lamar Jackson is one of the most talented players in the NFL we've ever seen of all time.
Yeah.
Pure talent based. You got to win in this league. And what you essentially you start to graduate from regular season success. When you become the upper echelon cream of the crop guys, the regular season doesn't matter anymore. It truly doesn't matter anymore. He could go out next year and put up a stinker all year long, but they make the playoffs and he goes on an Eli Manning type run. That's what matters. So it's going to be all about Lamar being in this new system, putting it together, and getting out of that sub 500 record in the playoffs. That's, at the end of the day, that's what matters. That's what people are going to talk about. If you're a hater of Lamar Jackson, the first thing you're going to bring up is he can't get it done in the playoffs. Pure point blank, because essentially that's the only thing you can say. We know he can play the position. We know he could stand in the pocket and throw it. That was a doubt for a long time. He's completely wiped that away. Can he get to the playoffs and not get stripped and fumble in big spots? Has he gotten let down by teammates? Absolutely. But the buck doesn't stop with them. It stops with Lamar Jackson, so that doesn't matter. So without question, Bleck, it's one of the biggest storylines coming into the year because you're also moving off of a head coach that was rock solid, won a lot of games, had a lot of success. Todd Monken and that offense had a lot of success and made you look really good for multiple years. That's all fresh. And now there's nobody to blame but Lamar Jackson if things go south.
And there's two guys taking over teams this offseason that they're really in a no-win situation unless they go to the Super Bowl. It's Jesse Minter with the Ravens, and it's Joe Brady with the Buffalo Bills. Both of those teams are very good teams. And both of those young coaches, like usually what you get is you take over a team and they're struggling, and that's why the head coach was fired, right? Okay. You get there, and there's always a new head coach bump the next season. So like even if you're a bad team, that new head coach organizes things. And I was talking yesterday with Jeff Schwartz, and he was saying like the objective of a new coach is to fix one side of the ball in year one. And if you can do that, then you worry about the other side of the ball that's not your expertise in year two. And it's a 2-year build to try and get back into contention, right? And it makes a lot of sense. And if you gamble on football, you know that teams with new head coaches usually outperform the expectation on what the win total heading into the season will be. Okay, like primarily, and I know Abdalla's mentioned it here on the show many times, we both have our eyes on Tennessee. Tennessee seems like one of those bad teams with Robert Saleh heading into next season that may surprise some people, especially with all the cap space they have, and they already have a young quarterback for the future. So with that said, Jesse Minter and Joe Brady are kind of, in my mind, in no-win situations because Jesse Minter has to get to the playoffs. The Ravens can't miss the playoffs next year, or else it was a failure. Joe Brady and the Bills, they essentially have to get to the AFC Championship game, or else their season was a failure. And so I think that's the difficult part of taking over a team that's had a lot of success. John Harbaugh and Sean McDermott, both are coaches that I think if McDermott wanted to coach this offseason, he would have landed a job. I think a lot of people have respect for him around the league. Harbaugh was on the market for 2.5 days? And he took one meeting with the Jets and their family, and they didn't let him out of the building. It's one of those things that we were on the air at noon Eastern, and it was reported immediately at the start of one of our shows that John was meeting with the Giants. And then, I'm at home. It's 8:30 at night Central Time, and there's the reports. The meeting's still going on. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
The longest meeting, okay, so he's going to be the Giants head coach. If he's there the entire day, then that's probably how this will play out. So I think Jesse Minter's in a tough spot. Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean Little filling in for Abdalla today. And what I mean by a tough spot is it all goes to Lamar Jackson. If Jesse Minter can connect with Lamar Jackson and get the most out of Lamar Jackson this season, then he can win. He can get to the playoffs, and the Ravens should get to the playoffs. This is what Jesse Minter had to say to Pro Football Talk, talking about the upcoming OTAs, the offseason program, and Lamar Jackson.
First of all, I do have total respect for the rules that it is voluntary. Totally understand that. And Lamar has had unbelievable success doing it both ways. And so there's certainly a balance there. But I think it's our job to create an environment and a learning opportunity where they feel like it's really important to them to want to be there.
I'm missing something if I'm not. I better get there. I'm hearing what these guys
just
I better get there.
They're like, man, this is high-level stuff, and this stuff's going to help us. This stuff's, I think, the feeling of what we're doing now will pay off in September and October and November versus, we're coming in and we're kind of doing the same routine. It just needs to be an environment that they really feel the importance of it.
I love the way. So that's Jesse Minter on Pro Football Talk. I think that was Chris Sims jumping in there during the piece of audio. I love this. John, I love this. Sean Little in for Abdalla today. What the Ravens are setting up here is this is how we do things. We are creating an environment that our players should want to be here to work through a new playbook, new coaching staff, and preparing for this season, which then, in turn, without saying it, puts it on Lamar Jackson's shoulders to be present. And you heard in the audio, Jesse Minter say what the rules allow for them to dictate on when you have to be in the building are different than the player choosing on his own to be there in the building as much as he wants to. And if you're not from Baltimore and you're new to the storyline is this. Lamar Jackson does not show up to the facilities when it's not the season. He is known to be someone that's working out in Florida. He's not making his way back to the facility when a new head coach is being hired. He's not a part of that process. You know, we saw it with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen was a part of the interview process when the Bills were looking for their head coach this offseason. So I like this move from Minter. They're setting a culture that they want guys to want to be there. And that, to me, Sean, is code for, all right, we're gonna sniff out who doesn't actually want to be here moving forward. And I think he's saying something without saying something directly to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also your job to make a connection with Lamar and make sure he's there. Because he's kind of speaking out of both sides of his mouth for me. He's saying, I would like to see him there, but it's not mandatory. But if you make a connect, you can make things, I don't want to say.
And that's because of NFL rules, right? Like, they can't make it mandatory. And I think that's why he has to say it like that. So, like, I get your perspective on it.
It's like when your wife, it's like your wife says, I would like you to go to this dinner party with me. Yeah. It's like, well, I don't really want to go.
Do I have to?
Like, do I have to go? No, you don't have to go.
I would like you to go.
I would like you to go.
I would like you to go with me.
Like, things might be a little rocky if you don't show up to this thing, right? So I think that's what Jesse's saying.
Is there a big game on this? Do I have something else? Are the guys getting together at the bar? Is there?
My phone was buzzing. Let me check.
Is it a college football Saturday? Like, would I rather sit at home and watch college football all day, or do I really have to go to this pumpkin patch with you? I know that you would like me to go, but do I have to go?
And then you got to look her in the eyes, and she'll tell you if you really have to go to this dinner or not, right?
So no, you know it. We have both been with someone for a long time, so we know the answer is you got to go.
You got to go.
You got to go.
I'm trying to be civil here, but yes, you need to be there. So the thing for Lamar is this is something that comes up as low-hanging fruit. Like, there have been reports throughout the year that Harbaugh and the staff would have to shift around practice times because Lamar doesn't want to go early in the morning. Yeah. Right? Like, there's a lot of different things that have come out surrounding Lamar Jackson. But at the end of the day, man, if you win, none of this matters. The thing here for me is I'm a very massive proponent of my star. So if my star player is Lamar Jackson, I am not going to go hire a defensive coordinator as the head coach. The reason the Bears had success is because Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams are on one accord. I call offense. I create offense. All I do as Ben Johnson is sit around and think up offense, and I talk to Caleb about it. Jesse Minter is a defense-first guy. Now, we're familiar with Declan Doyle, the new offensive coordinator, because he's coming from the Ben Johnson tree. But he's also 29 years old. We know who was really running the offense here in Chicago was Ben Johnson. He was the play caller. We're essentially pairing Lamar Jackson now with a defense-first head coach and a 29-year-old rookie offensive coordinator and play caller. That is a lot to figure out for a veteran two-time MVP quarterback. Like, that's only been under Harbaugh his entire career.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And I also think how do you get experience without getting the experience? So sure. Declan Doyle not being a play caller in the past, I think could be concerning. But also he is someone that the conversation around him has been, he's a mini Ben Johnson. And if that's the case, the Ravens have scored big, right? Because they've got a guy who can handle the defense. And then perhaps they get a couple of years of the next guy who's going to be a hot candidate to be a head coach somewhere else. Or Sean, like, even though the way that you're painting the picture, if Jesse Minter doesn't work out, but the offense improves, then boom, you got your head coach right there because that's going to be the guy play calling. And I think that's what puts defensive-sided coaches at a disadvantage in the NFL is that you want the guy making all the decisions to be the guy calling the plays because that guy's he's not going to be poached from your team to go take a different job. Yeah. Where Declan Doyle, if he has success with Lamar Jackson, I guarantee next offseason when we're sitting here talking about the NFL, there's a good chance Declan Doyle might be a head coach somewhere. You know, he was highly hyped coming out of Denver, working in Sean Payton's system, and then he gets the year with Ben Johnson. So that's where Jesse Minter also has to kind of play this, where if they get the most out of Lamar, is it a connection between the offensive coordinator and Lamar, or is it a connection between Jesse Minter and Lamar? Because Minter's the one that's going to be there for an extended period of time. And I understand the concern about, like, when it comes to the player, you got to show up and want to do this. And I think that's the critique and criticism on Lamar Jackson to this point has been that. Is he doing what the other top quarterbacks in the NFL are sacrificing and participating in from a day-to-day basis to be the absolute best. You mentioned Sean Little in for Abdalla today. It's Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. Sean mentioned the practice schedule. What other quarterback in the NFL only wants to practice in the afternoons? So the entire team restructures the practice schedule around said quarterback. That's prima donna nonsense. You don't hear about that in the NFL. You hear about that sometimes in the NBA. You don't hear about that in the NFL. One person isn't greater than the larger room, the 53 on game day, the 70+ that are in there practicing each week. That's a lot of guys, right? You don't change everything for one. And, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe other quarterbacks dictate policy like that. But maybe those other quarterbacks are allowed to do it because they're actually always there. I don't know. But I do know it was a story that Harbaugh had to push practice back. You don't hear that about Mahomes or Allen or even the past greats, Aaron Rodgers. Go back to a previous generation, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. You don't hear that stuff about them, but you hear it about Lamar Jackson. So now it's up to Lamar. Do you want to be the best player in football? You have the talent. You can be. You certainly can be. And you could lead a team to a Super Bowl. Now you just got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's where we've gotten to with this story. And then I think that's why the new coaching staff is putting that challenge to Lamar Jackson.
What you've been doing since you came in the league has shown that throughout the regular season, you will put up big numbers. You'll win a lot of regular season games, and you'll win a lot of hardware, personally. Clearly, what you've been doing up to this point isn't enough to get us over the hump in the playoffs.
Right.
Because we have some of the best. We've had multiple occasions for Lamar Jackson where the defense is top-notch, and we have a very, very good run game to match. So it's on Lamar Jackson to get them over the hump on that point. So you've been in the league. This is going to be year 9, I believe, for Lamar Jackson. So are you doing the extra stuff that's going to, when it's playoff time, that's going to get it done? Yep. And to this point in his career, he hasn't. The rumblings have been there, and they're going to continue to be there until he does push the Ravens and the city of Baltimore over the edge.
Sean Little in for Abdalla today. It's Bleck and Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. If you want to join us, you can call us at 310-840-4910. Ray in Chicago, you're on with Bleck and Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. What's up, Ray?
Hello?
Ray, go ahead, man.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you could hear me. Yeah, how you guys doing? So, Bleck, you know how I feel about Lamar. You know what I always call him. But I think you guys
say
are right.
It again for Sean. It's a great phrase that you've said with Lamar.
Sean, for me, I know he's a great talent, but to me, Lamar Jackson is the James Harden of NFL. He just is. He doesn't show up in the big games. I know it's not always his fault, but that's been his MO. He's acting kind of kooky from time to time, just like James Harden does. He doesn't seem fully committed, really live up to his full, expectations or even his full potential. And I think, for that coaching staff, I'm going to, like you said, Sean, he's going on year 9. After this, he'll be with the team for a decade. Not every quarterback's going to win a Super Bowl. You have your run with them. And I would think that management and ownership talked about after this year, this might be it for him. And if he's going to keep showing that if he's going to show that he's not on the same page with the new coaching staff, he doesn't want to commit more to win, I say move on from him. It's just time. You had your run with him. You know what you have. You know what you don't have, and that's a Super Bowl win. So I think it's time for them to maybe just cut bait, save some money, and do a reset. But, again, as always, I love the show, and I'll listen to what you guys think.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. If you want to join the show today, you can call us at 310-840-4910. Sean Little in for Abdalla. We're continuing talking some NFL, a little NBA as well. Should we buy Kyler Murray stock? Stock Watch with Raj is coming up next.
The NFL Combine is underway. GMs are meeting, and trade season has officially sparked. We're breaking down the moves that could reshape the league and your team. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Bleck and Abdalla on Westwood One Sports. Here's Chris Bleck and Adam Abdalla.
That's right, Bleck and Abdalla weekdays noon to 3 Eastern, right here on Westwood One Sports. Broadcasting live from downtown Chicago each and every day. I'm Chris Bleck. Sean Little is in for Abdalla today. And now we go to Denver, Colorado, where Raj is producing the show. And now it's time for Stock Watch. Which Raj? What's up, Raj?
Hey, what's up, Bleck? What's up, Sean? Sean, I hope you are going to exhibit better instincts in Stock Watch than Bleck and Abdalla usually do. These guys, they would be broke by now. They buy every stock that's high they're buying. Sean, I got higher hopes for you today in Stock Watch that you are going to be fiscally responsible and spend where you should spend. We're going to start with a quarterback that we talked about earlier in the show, the report from Fox Sports. He wants his release from Arizona. He doesn't want to be traded. He wants to hit the free agent market. All right, Sean, we start with you. Are you buying or selling stock in Kyler Murray?
Yeah, very particular situation, but I'm going to sell stock on Kyler Murray because I think it's going to end up being attached to a very big salary cap number. If you go back to 2020, this is peak Kyler Murray, his second year in the league. 37 total touchdowns, 819 rush yards on 133 attempts.
Yeah.
That's all plummeted since that 2020 year. He's coming off the ACL. His last full year was 2024. Where we got him back off of injury. He went 8-9 as a record, only 26 total touchdowns, all advanced passing towards the bottom of the league. I'm just not a believer that athleticism is going to be there that can catapult him to that guy from 2020. So I'm going to sell Kyler Murray.
I'm going to buy, Raj. This shouldn't be a surprise to you or anyone listening to the show. I think Kyler Murray, he's the guy that if you're looking for someone who's talented, who can turn into what we've seen, the development of Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold with their new teams and new situations, it's Kyler Murray. He's the guy that has that level of talent. Now can a new coach, a new situation get that out of him? So I understand the concern for Kyler's play, but if anyone is a young prospect quarterback to buy, this is the guy I'm buying. And I do want to say, like, it's not like I'm putting my life savings on Kyler. I'm just going to take this stock hoping it turns into a lotto ticket and turns into, say, Minnesota getting to the playoffs, because Kyler Murray played a really he played well for O'Connell in the offense throughout the season for the Vikings or whoever, a good team situation.
Still only 27, Sam Darnold 27.
Yeah, I mean, he was the number one pick. He's a multi-sport athlete, right? Like, he could have played baseball if he wanted to. So I'm going to stick with the talent, and I'm going to buy the stock of Kyler Murray.
Sleeper pick. Normally I mock Bleck for buying, but sleeper pick. Kyler could have a future career as like an online gamer at Call of Duty, and he could cash in on the stock with that as well. So I see what you're doing here, Bleck. All right, next up in Stock Watch, an entire team. They won last night against the JV Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
Bleck, are you buying or selling Cade Cunningham's Detroit Pistons?
Ooh, this is tough, because if you're telling me I'm buying stock that this team can get to the conference finals with a chance to get to the NBA finals, I would say yes, I'll buy that stock. I don't think they can win the championship, though, because they don't make enough three-point shots from night to night. And I think that's going to be their downfall, is the outside shooting. So unfortunately, I'm going to sell my Detroit Pistons stock.
What on earth are you doing, Bleck?
Yeah.
You know what you do? You know what you do when you buy stock?
Yeah.
You hold it, baby. If they don't get it done this year, I think
long play.
The trajectory of the Detroit Pistons is up, and up. Cade Cunningham is going to be a top 5 guy if he's not a top 5 guy already. So if we're talking about buying stocks, you try to save money on the tax bill, baby. You hold it long term. I'm a big Detroit Pistons guy, so I'm going to buy the Pistons this year. If they don't get it done this year, I think they'll be right back in the thick of it next year. I'm long the Detroit Pistons.
All right,
I like it, Sean. And Sean, you're getting dividends on that stock for taking a shot at Bleck at the same time.
There
well done.
you go. I like the dividends too, man.
All right, next up, this stock really has been trading very high over the last week. Really high, like surprisingly high. All right, Sean, are you buying or selling Malik Willis stock?
Man, Can I do it like a put option, or what can we do here? I actually really enjoy what I saw from Malik Willis, so I'm going to buy it. I think he's a guy that, even if he's not a starter on your team, clearly he could be a solidified backup that you could call on when needed. For a reasonable price, I would buy the Malik Willis stock. Sell,
Raj. We're selling, and I'm not worried about the capital gains tax I have to pay on it for selling this stock. To me, the market has valued Malik Willis too high, so I'm not hoping for anything. I don't think he is an elite quarterback. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he's a great backup quarterback, which is fine. Yeah. There's a lot of those guys. Mac Jones is one of those guys. I don't want Mac Jones to be my starting quarterback. I think it's the reason his stock has so much amplification of how this is going in the offseason has to do with the fact that there are so little quarterbacks actually available. So I'm selling.
All right, next up, he's only 31 years old, and he's taking over the play calling duties in Denver from Sean Payton. He got head coaching interviews already. Are you buying or selling an ascending stock, Bleck, the stock of Davis Webb?
Yeah, so this is one of those stocks, because whatever Davis Webb accomplishes this year with the Broncos as new offensive coordinator, as the play caller, taking over from Sean Payton, this is one of those where you see a new technology that you believe in, hoping it turns into the next Apple, hoping it turns into Microsoft or something big, right? And you hope that Davis Webb turns into an NFL head coach, and a very good NFL head coach. So I'm going to buy this stock because I want to get in on the ground level.
I have to buy it because I trust Sean Payton, and if he's going to give up play calling duties, he absolutely trusts Davis Webb fully. Payton would never, ever give up the sheet if he didn't believe in Davis Webb, and I think this is his way of keeping Davis Webb around for maybe an extended period of time. So I have to buy it because Sean Payton bought it. Sometimes when the big dogs, when JD Diamond buys some stock, I got to buy it, right? So if Payton bought it, I got to buy it.
Who's the richest man in the world who eats the cheeseburger every day?
The guy lives in Nebraska.
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett?
Warren Buffett buys.
Yeah, when Buffett makes a move, you gotta pay attention to what he's doing. Right?
I'll align my dollars next to Warren's for sure.
All right,
Isn't
next
that funny,
up,
though? The thing that I know about him is that he goes to McDonald's. Doesn't he go to McDonald's every day and buys
he gets like the discounted coffee or something like the senior citizen discount coffee or something.
And he drives like a Model T, I think, through the drive-thru, I think.
Hello, sir. I would like to order my coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. All right, next stop. You always hear about the health of stock. Like, it's a healthy stock, a not so healthy stock. Well, health can sometimes be the question with our next one. All right, Bleck, are you buying or selling stock in Darren Peterson?
Man, the talent is there. What the hell is going on at Kansas this season? Why doesn't he want to play? He says he wants to play. It's all injury stuff, but come on. Dudes who want it are always out there. And I think there's no surprise that AJ Debonsa said last week that he wants to play 40 minutes a game and does play 40 minutes a game. Like, I feel like that was a shot across another player who's going to be up for the number one pick in the NBA draft. I feel like I'm being backed into a corner where I have to buy this, because if this dude turns out to be the next Dwayne Wade, you don't want to be the guy saying that I was selling the stock on Darren Peterson. So reluctantly, I'm going to buy Peterson stock.
Too much upside. You got to put the order in. You got to buy the Darren Peterson stock. I will say I would take AJ Debonsa at the number one slot over Peterson. But if you watch Peterson play for 15 possessions, you're like, this guy can do whatever he wants anytime he has the rock.
Smooth.
It almost seems like he decides how he wants to attack you every possession. He's like, I'll just go to the cup.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just pull up here. Like, he can get it done. I'm very interested. Look, we just talked about Lamar Jackson doing stuff in the regular season. If Peterson brings this nonchalant, I might play, I might not, into the NCAA tournament, then I think we have a real issue where how much does he love the game? How much is he really interested in being a part of something special? Because it's still a team game. As much as one superstar can impact a basketball team, it's still a team game. And you want guys that are still going to be a part of that. So I'm interested to see how he looks and his attitude come March Madness.
And I think you're right on DeBonsa and then Cam Boozer. If those two have really good tournaments, like then you may see Peterson slip. And then you got to ask, like, the character questions come up, or is it some team that's a sleeper team that's not necessarily the top 2 picks is able to land a player of this caliber, and maybe it was all stuff that we talked about now, and it won't matter when he becomes a professional. I don't know. It's a tough way to gauge, right?
Also, I don't know about you. I haven't heard. I would love to hear from Darren Peterson or somebody from his team. Look, they've just let this story run completely wild, and no one's addressed anything.
I know that ESPN had quotes from him. I don't know if he conducted an actual on video interview of it, but they had quotes that they ran last week when this story popped up, saying, and the quote was like, "I want to play."
Yeah, it's like,
it was like,
right.
Okay, cool. Then get out there, get on the court, and stop subbing yourself out because you don't feel right. Come on, man.
And by the way, this is the pros now. You're making millions of dollars. I would hey, you want to cash these checks? Let's not do it in silence. Let's not be Mark Eversley. Let's not cash the money in silence. Yes. I would love to hear from you.
Yes. All right, Raj,
sounds like the most can't miss stocks in Zion Williamson.
Yeah, right?
All right, and finally in Stock Watch, we talked about him just a few minutes ago. All right, Sean, are you buying or selling your stock in Lamar Jackson?
I'm a holder. Can I be a holder? Can I cheat and say I'm a holder? I still have Lamar Jackson stock from my stock up, stock down in the years prior. I haven't sold it. I'm still holding on. I would add, if I had to make a decision, he's still lethal when healthy, when playing a full schedule. So I think he's still a top 5 talent in the NFL. They've had one of the top offenses in the NFL for multiple years running, and that's because of one guy, it's Lamar Jackson. He opens up everything. So I'm a holder, and I would add on Lamar.
Raj, I'm going to keep that stock, and I'm going to buy more. I think for all the concerns that we laid out in the last 30 minutes here on the show with Lamar Jackson, he is too talented. He is too good. I think he comes correct with this new coaching staff. They figure it out. I think Lamar will continue to be one of the best quarterbacks in football, so I will buy that stock.
And that does it for Stock Watch today. Good job, Sean. I think you got a pretty strong portfolio. Bleck, you're okay.
I appreciate you, Raj.
Thank you, Raj. We always appreciate your help here on the show. Bleck Abdalla, Sean Little filling in for Abdalla today. Sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com. We're talking about the NFL offseason. Could there be rule changes coming to the NFL? Some unique ideas from the UFL. We'll tell you about those coming up next.
How long will the Steelers wait for a decision from Aaron Rodgers? Or could Mike McCarthy and company be in the market for a QB like Malik Willis in free agency? Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Is Bleck and Abdalla on Westwood One Sports. Here's Chris Bleck and Adam Abdalla.
So the UFL is changing some rules for their upcoming season. Do some of these rules make sense for the NFL to adopt and to maybe change to be like the UFL? Some of them are pretty interesting. I'm Chris Bleck along with Sean Little today, filling in for Abdalla. Bleck and Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. So, Sean, let me throw some of these rule ideas that the UFL is using this season, changes that they have going into their year. Could these work for the NFL? So they will have 60-yard field goal attempts. If you make it, it's a 4-point field goal. So instead of 3, from 60 out, you can get 4 points. What do you think of that idea off the top?
I hate it because 60 is the new 50, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if we pushed it back a little bit, I could start to entertain it. But 60 is just not far enough for these guys anymore. What I saw this year with my own eyes, I legitimately, they were running 60 out like it was 47. So I do think you should look.
In weather, too. Like
in weather,
in
like
stadiums,
no
outdoor,
problem.
Natural grass. Like it is something that if you don't have a kicker in the NFL who can at least attempt the 60-yarder, and I'm probably showing my bias being a Chicago Bears fan because we have a limp-footed kicker in Chicago.
Accurate, though.
Okay. But
dead accurate,
anything
though.
past 52 is a question where every other team, like Sean said, is rolling out guys trying 60, 61, 62. It is. I don't like it. I just don't like messing with the actual
core structure. Yeah,
the points going on the board. So like, I wouldn't adopt that for the NFL, but that is unique to see. And I wonder if there's going to be UFL teams. Obviously it's a lower level competition. So are there going to be enough kickers to like try this on a consistent basis that it will make it worth it to try and go for the 4-point play? Here's another idea that the UFL is using to change their rules. No punting from inside the opposing territory.
Love it. Especially for a league like the UFL. Like, why not? Yes, I love that. You have to go. We're here to see points in action. This is not this should be, I love that. I don't even need to go any further, but I love that you don't have the option. You have to go put something together and try to pick up. Try to score.
Don't you kind of feel like this is just going to happen naturally without a rule being placed in the NFL? And what I mean by that is so many head coaches now are going for it on 4th down, especially when they're in opposing territory. So once you cross midfield, a lot of teams are using like just go for it on 4th. And then on top of it, we just mentioned the kickers kicking from farther distances out. I feel as if the NFL is moving to a spot where it is very unlikely for a team to punt if they're across the 50-yard line, unless it's a weather game, unless your quarterback is all 3 of your quarterbacks are injured, and you have like the emergency backup who's also your running back out there. I have a feeling that you don't need to add this rule because the league is moving towards that to begin with in the NFL. Okay, they are banning in the UFL the tush push. Should the NFL do the same?
Yes, I agree. I think all the pushing needs to be banned. Like, you shouldn't be able to...
the pushing.
4 or 5 people shouldn't be able to push a guy after he makes a catch. Like that Josh Allen touchdown in the playoffs was absolutly...
Against Jacksonville when he was at like the 7-yard line and pushed
absurd.
all the way in.
You ever look at something like that? Just feels wrong. That's. I was watching. I was like, this feels...
That's not the game.
Incorrect. That's not the game. Exactly right.
I would say I would not ban it because I think teams they've come up with the strategy on how to try and limit. And we saw Philly and Buffalo, even though Buffalo in the playoffs, they were successful at it, at times struggle to get to the level that they were at last season where it was unstoppable. The Eagles are no longer unstoppable. It's still like 70% of the time it works, but there is a chance for a defense to kind of match up. So I would hold off on that, but it is always interesting to look at what the other football leagues are doing. The one thing I would wish the NFL would go back to is like it is refreshing to flip on a college football game and to see the old kickoff plays take place like it used to be. Like every once in a while you forget. They're like, oh yeah, in college football, it's the way it used to be. I kind of like the way that goes. It's Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean Little from NBA TV is filling in for Abdalla today. How about we go to a Bleck's NBA notebook with Sean? All right, Sean. I was watching basketball last night, and I've got a few things I want to run by you that I was thinking of when I was watching basketball last night. Watching the Thunder and the Pistons last night, here's my thought. If both teams get to the NBA Finals, I think that will be great for people who love basketball. But the national media and the narrative around a Pistons-Thunder final series will be, quote, this matchup is bad for the NBA.
We just saw this last year. This is the exact conversation we just had last year, and the ratings said so. The series was awesome for hoop heads like me.
Right.
Like, Pacers-Thunder was awesome. But the small market combined with the you want to be the guy's face you put on the screen as the preview needs to be a major guy for casuals, and that's where you can run into problems when we're looking at Thunder Pistons.
Yeah, and it would be a great series to watch. And last night wasn't quite it because the Thunder had so many starters out, right? So like I get that, but I just know how that's going to work as we get to that point, like later in the summer is that we're going to get people being like, this is bad for the NBA because who's playing? It's like, dude, you should have been watching basketball all season. Cade Cunningham, has he helped or hurt his MVP odds this week? Losing to San Antonio, but then bouncing back last night against the Thunder.
Yeah, I would say they're probably still pretty steady. Really interesting situation here with the games played. Like SGA coming out of the break, it was the understanding that he'll be back, but he continues to miss games. You have to play 65 to win the MVP. Jokic is only allowed to miss 2 more games because he missed a bunch with a hyperextended right knee. So Cade is right there in the mix purely because he's going to play a ton of games. His team is number 1 in the East by a wide margin. I think they'll stay at the number 1 squad in the East. So I think if anything, it's trending up slightly, but probably pretty rock solid there at that 3rd spot behind SGA and Jokic.
Looking at the games played should not be the way that we decide the MVP, but I understand why they put that rule in. Okay, next up on the NBA Notebook, Sean Little in for Adam Abdalla today. I'm Chris Bleck. Who is the best player in the league right now, and how long until we say it's Victor Wembanyama?
Victor Wembanyama right now is a top 5 player in the NBA. The best player in the league is Jokic still. Offensively is an absolute animal. About as close to unstoppable as you have in this league. And if you can put unstoppable next to a guy's name, typically means he's the best player. Victor's on his way, though. Offensively, the game isn't really there yet. Naturally, the defense and the way he morphs the court on that end it's
insane.
Special, yeah.
He is such a difference maker on both ends. All right, next up on the Notebook, the Lakers feel like, to me, a team that will fizzle out and lose in the first round of the playoffs. Do you agree with that? Right now, the Lakers are the 6th seed. They would face off against Minnesota in a 5-6 matchup in the first round. I don't think the way the Lakers are playing right now that they get out of the first round of the playoffs.
I could see the Lakers being in the play-in if Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns and Dylan Brooks get back in time to run off a couple wins. You absolutely cannot have 3 guys take up legitimately 70% of the cap and none of them play defense.
Yeah.
0.
Yes.
You have Luka, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James taking up north of 70% of the cap and they don't play defense, and they're trying to navigate that. So the Lakers have a couple things to figure out, and they're just not a good basketball team. They're the 6th. You may be right now today. I think the Clippers are better than the Lakers.
I could see that. Even though the records don't match, I could see Kawhi's been great as of late. I could definitely see that. And finally, quickly to wrap this up, the NBA Notebook. Who's a player who deserves more attention this season? My pick would be Brandon Ingram. The Raptors are 5th in the East, and Ingram's their leading scorer, once again, playing good basketball. Is there anyone that comes to mind? Someone that deserves more attention this season?
I'll go Brandon Miller for Charlotte.
All right.
I think he unlocks a lot of what they've been doing. LaMelo obviously still handles the rock. Con Knipple, we've been able to talk about him the way we have because Brandon Miller creates a lot of space and supplements his scoring.
It's pretty good. There you go. NBA Notebook. Sean Little works for NBA TV, hanging out with me in for Abdalla today. Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. A story that we're following in the NFL. Kyler Murray and his people want the Cardinals to release the quarterback so then he can be a free agent. We'll talk about Kyler, the Cardinals, and that situation coming up next.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Bleck and Abdalla on Westwood One Sports. Here's Chris Bleck and Adam Abdalla.
That's right, Bleck and Abdalla, noon to 3 Eastern each and every weekday right here on Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app, Sirius XM Channel 375, all of our great radio affiliates across the country, broadcasting live from Chicago. I'm Chris Bleck, along with Sean Little from NBA TV, hanging out in for Abdalla today. If you want to join us this hour, you can call us at 310-840-4910. Sean, we've got our eyes on the NFL Combine. It's day 4. We have the defensive linemen out there. We have the linebackers working out today. We have the kickers working out. I believe the quarterbacks are on Saturday. So there's a lot going on at the Combine. And also a lot going on with not necessarily players who are participating at the Combine. There's a lot of movement and conversation about offseason moves in the NFL. And I want to start you right now with this one. It's Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. And the story that we have today from Fox News, from Fox Sports, Fox News, that would be a story. Could you imagine that story?
Yeah.
We have a report here. We had the State of the Union was a couple days ago. But first, Kyler wants out of Arizona.
Exactly.
Next.
Hey, man, you never know. Trump could have brought Kyler out.
Hey, maybe. You never know, right? You never know who's up next on the game show. And then come on down during the State of the Union. So this is the report from Fox Sports. Kyler Murray and his camp would like the Cardinals to release him so he can be a free agent in this offseason. There's no reason for the Cardinals to do so unless they test the trade market and nobody wants him. I have a feeling that that's not going to be the case. I have a feeling that Kyler Murray is the best available quarterback if you are a team searching for a quarterback in this offseason. So the Cardinals can get something for him. They absolutely can. And so even though Kyler's camp would like the Cardinals to release him, I don't think that's likely, and that's one of the stories we're following here on the show today.
It shouldn't be an option if you're the Arizona Cardinals. If they cut him before March, they're not on the hook for his 2027 salary, any of it, not a single dollar. And if they do cut him, that triggers a $57.7 million cap hit that can be split up between this year and next, a la Russell Wilson. So that shouldn't be an option, because if you do trade Kyler Murray, it ends up being a manageable $18 million dead cap hit and saves $35.3 million. So that should answer any questions for the Arizona Cardinals and what they should do. I don't care. As I mentioned, the phone line from Kyler Murray to the front office in Arizona should be cut off, defunct, doesn't work anymore. Like, that's what should come up when Kyler tries to call the Arizona Cardinals and request anything. They need to trade him, get off of that deal, and figure out the best way to save as much money for the franchise.
As we keep an eye on all the different quarterback possible movement here in this offseason, there is news today also. I believe it's from ESPN that's reporting that the Colts have told Anthony Richardson that he can seek a trade, which that's something teams tell players right before they're going to release the player. So Anthony Richardson's also an option. Not as talented, not as proven as Kyler Murray, but he is someone that was drafted very highly. And he is someone that maybe some seasoning, some years behind a starter, maybe that could benefit Anthony Richardson and being a successful quarterback. I mean, there was a point in time where Geno Smith was looked at as one of the biggest busts in NFL history when he was a Jet. And years go by and experience takes place and players get better. So it is possible that we could be having this conversation 2-3 years down the road, and Anthony Richardson could be a good backup, someone that could be in the conversation, be a starter somewhere, maybe. So that's out there as well today, is that the Colts are allowing Richardson to seek a trade. The other part of that story is that we know that the Colts at this moment are discussing a long-term conversation with a contract for Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, another quarterback that failed in his original spot. He had some success last year, even though I thought it was a little fluky the way the Colts season went last season. I didn't buy how good that the record really showed early. So that with that storyline, you have the Colts getting to a spot with Daniel Jones. They're going to look at a long-term contract. They're allowing Richardson to seek a trade.
I'm not sure why the Colts would announce that they're planning on signing Daniel Jones and give the market that view and give everyone that comfortability and give him that comfortability as well. I'm with you, Bleck. I think the season started really well. It started to tail off, and then he got injured. You can argue that the injury will end up helping the overall viewpoint of his quality and how the season went. A lot of people, mostly casuals, you'll ask them how Daniel Jones was last year. They'll say he was killing it, then he got injured.
Yeah. Yes.
And before he got injured, it really started to flip a little bit. And I think also with you and Abdalla talking about Tennessee, they also have a really good job to be good and outperform people's expectations because that division is annually soft. So them coming out and say Daniel Jones essentially is going to get a long-term deal is interesting. Absolutely, Anthony Richardson, the jury's still out, but he's starting to lose members every single
of his
month.
fan club.
Yeah, exactly. So
subscribers are dropping.
The followers are going down. So, but yeah, like you mentioned, if you can get in the spot where you can get Tuileage from McVay or Kevin O'Connell for a cheap look, a Shanahan, like there's proven track records. Baker Mayfield was on his way out of the league, and McVay added him and played him late in the regular season. Baker ends up playing well, then gets another opportunity, and he ends up turning his career around. So if you can get around a good coaching staff that could potentially give you a really true evaluation, Anthony Richardson could still turn everything around.
Yeah, and Anthony Richardson, at Florida, the knock on him at Florida was that he wasn't like the most he didn't have the most category of like moxie or like football smarts when it came to making decisions, but he has a hell of an arm. Great arm, and he is athletically gifted. Probably if you're looking at draft prospects, probably on the athletic gift side of things, the most gifted athlete we've seen at quarterback since like Cam Newton, right? So like the appeal is there. And that's why when you see the Anthony Richardson from the draft, 4th overall in the first round, that's why the Colts took that gamble, is because they were hoping that they were finding the next Cam Newton. Now,
the rivals
whether or not if he can get that done in a new location, like, I think it'll take time. Obviously, if Anthony Richardson goes to the Jets and he's in a quarterback competition with a couple other guys and Justin Fields, like, that ain't going to work. But if there is a team that has an established starter, because that's what happened with Baker. That's what happened with Sam Darnold. They went places with good head coaches, offensive-minded head coaches, who had starting quarterbacks. So there's no pressure. Just learn. If Richardson could do that, I don't think that that's that crazy. He's 23. Like, that's the thing with Richardson that I think that's a big kind of part to, like, point out is, like, he's a young player still. I think there's still something there.
The Rivals description of Anthony Richardson would have said, and Rivals is the high school.
Yeah.
It would have said athlete.
Yes.
It was like quarterback, running back, quarterback. His would have said athlete, like a lot of others. Now, let me be clear overall about Richardson and the situation. The Colts drafted Richardson, said he needed time. He's going to need time to develop. He's not there yet.
And?
They didn't give him time. They didn't let him develop. And now we're here and we're saying he's a bust. So, of course, the age is still there. There's still time. My big thing with prospects coming out of college is typically if you didn't dominate in college, what makes me why would I think you would dominate and be really good in the pros? Like JJ McCarthy didn't dominate in college. Insane run game with
Michigan. Yep.
Who's the running back? What's his name? Crum?
Yeah.
Can't remember the exact name, and I apologize for butchering my man. But the way they toted the rock up there for Michigan that year.
I'm trying to think.
Outside of Blake Crum, it's his name, I believe. He plays for Denver.
Okay. Corum.
Blake Corum. There you go. Blake Corum was awesome for Michigan that year. And J.J. McCarthy showed a few flashes on a Rose Bowl stage against Alabama on a couple drives. We're like, okay, this guy. And he meditated by the field goal post before games. And they're like, this guy's so zen. He's going to get it the next level. He's the guy.
He meditated.
He meditated and that was the big thing. But if you don't dominate in college, you typically don't dominate in the pros. And Anthony Richardson, J.J. McCarthy, and a lot of other guys are evidence of that.
Yeah, and I think it's tough to figure out, right? Because in college football, there are so many different systems, styles of play. So many teams are playing that run and shoot type of offense where you're getting to the line of scrimmage. everyone turns their head to the coordinator and the assistant coaches, and they hold up a sign of Stewie Griffin and a vulture.
The Chip Kelly.
Like there's a whole bunch of like, and all that is telling the different positional groups on the field, like the difference between one or two plays, right? Like, and so to take what you do in college and then transform that to the NFL, where an NFL quarterback is not only passing more behind center, so they're under center instead of only being in the shotgun. They're also spewing out a play every single time that has, 5 to 10 parts to the play that they have to memorize, know, and then be able to communicate that to the rest of the team, looking at them in a pressurized situation with limited amount of time to do so. And I think that side of things, so if you check out the podcast, the Bleck Abdalla podcast, when we were at the Super Bowl in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, we had a chance to talk to Joe Milton, backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And Joe took us through play-by-play on what takes place in his headset on any given play in the NFL, talking about sometimes there's offensive coordinators who are a little too chirpy, who get annoying in the headset. They're giving you the play and then turning around and spitting the play back out to the players and then being able to run an offense in the NFL. It's a totally different thing than college football. So, Sean, to say that when you see a quarterback that's not dominating in college football and then you question it when you get to the next level, I think it's fair. I would say there are quarterbacks where it's like you have to question if they dominate on the team level or because I think there's some guys who are at maybe lesser schools who don't have the team success, but they throw for like thousands of yards, right? Yeah. And they've got like 45 touchdowns and like it's year 2, 3, 4, and they're just out there throwing the football all over the field. And it's like, okay, there might be something to that. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a player for Alabama winning a national title as the quarterback to be successful. I think some of those reps are necessary as well. And I think that's why Fernando Mendoza is such an interesting case in this year's draft because Mendoza's been in college football for a long time. And until this past season, he hasn't been on the best team in college football. At Cal, they weren't a contending team, but he was throwing the football. He was dueling with other Pac-12 quarterbacks at the time and keeping Cal in some of those games. And I think that's why when you add it to the entire overall look of a prospect, I think it's interesting. I think Cam Ward is the same way. Obviously, he finished his college career at Miami, but at Washington State, they weren't winning anything. They had a good offense, though, and he was throwing the football all over the field. So I think you have to kind of gauge how much a quarterback is actually throwing and what they're doing. And you're right. That's what was concerning about J.J. McCarthy and that Michigan offense.
The structure. Yeah. Well, how much is JJ actually making happen here? Or is the Michigan defense lights out and we have one of the best running games in the country?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Brock Purdy's another example with Iowa State.
Yep.
He got a ton of reps. He played a ton of games, started for them, and he was impacting and threw the ball all over the pitch. But, like, we're talking about Baker Mayfield was a killer in college.
Yeah, he was
Kyler
awesome.
Murray,
yeah.
Killer. Cam Newton, for me, the best college season I've ever seen when we start talking about talent around is Cam Newton at Auburn. Like, unbelievable. Joe Burrow?
Yeah.
Killer. These guys are killers in college. So they translate, and even some of these guys I've just mentioned have growing pains in the pros. Now we're taking a reach on a guy at Florida, for example, Anthony Richardson, that completed 50% of his passes and struggled in a lot of his games, and I expect him
he wasn't a killer.
Yeah, he wasn't a killer, right? So, like, I think maybe Josh Allen coming in from Wyoming, he was another guy that only completed 50% of his passes in college. Coming in, he's been awesome. Don't get me wrong. But those guys are few and far between.
Yeah, you forgot a name. Those who were really good in college, Shedeur Sanders. I say that sarcastically.
It's a good point.
He was okay. He was okay at Colorado. They didn't win anything, though.
Yeah.
Nothing is funnier to me in the history of college football than Colorado retiring Shedeur's jersey. like how sad of an existence.
The coffers were full, though.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Raj is in Denver. He produces the show every day. Raj, am I wrong with that? The retiring of the jersey of Shedeur just because he was there and his dad's the coach? Like, Travis Hunter won a Heisman.
Yeah.
I get that. You retire that jersey. That makes sense.
It upset a lot of the old heads around the program that were there, like when they won the national championship. And even the great teams like Cordell that followed it, because like none of those guys got their number. I think Rashawn Salam, because he won a Heisman, he may be retired. But most of those guys didn't get retired. So, yeah, I think it didn't sit terribly well. And, look, I mean, it's not a negative on Shedeur. Shedeur was very good for the Buffs. He was a really good quarterback, and the program was terrible before he got there. But, like, retiring the number seemed like a little much. Yes, I agree.
He was good. He was good. I'll give you that. Really good? I don't know. He was good. He was good.
You got to grasp whatever straws you can get when you've been irrelevant for as long as they were. So if we could put a Sanders.
I think Colorado being good is good for college football. I like that.
Absolutely.
I think it's good. It's a fun story. I just remember we were talking about it on the air the other day because, like, I have a theory with football, college, and pro. Like, there are teams that people get very excited about when the weather is still warm across the country. And Colorado Buffalo is when Deion first got there. They won like 2 games against nobodies, and people are like, this is going to be a national championship team. It's like, everyone, do we not realize
unbelievable
how the football season works? Like, every year there's a team when it's still summer that wins a game, and then people are all excited about it. And then they lost 6 straight games to end the season?
They convinced us that Colorado State was must-see TV.
Yeah, and
they had the Colorado State head coach audio playing on national television lead up.
So the first win,
it was a special time.
The first win was Kansas State, and they had been good the previous year.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, contributed. And then they played Nebraska, who's their longtime rival. We didn't know yet Nebraska wasn't going to be good. So they overhyped those 2 wins, and then yes, they built up the Colorado State game, the old Rocky Mountain Showdown. They overly built that up, and then yes, they did go on a losing streak later that year. That did happen.
It's Bleck Abdalla. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Raj. It's Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean Little is in for Abdalla today. We go to Indianapolis for a live report at the NFL Combine coming up next. Lindsey Rhodes will join the show here on Bleck and Abdalla. That's next.
There's some big names on the trade block. Jalen Waddle, Max Crosby, A.J. Brown. Where are they going, and how will the moves impact your team? We'll tell you as it happens. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Is Bleck and Abdalla on Westwood One Sports. Here's Chris Bleck and Adam Abdalla.
That's right, Bleck and Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. Sean Little filling in for Abdalla today. If you want to join the show, you can call us at 310-840-4910. We now go on down to Indianapolis. The NFL Scouting Combine's taking place this week. And Lindsey Rhodes from Sumer Sports joins the Bleck and Abdalla show, and Sean Little in for Abdalla today. Lindsey, one of the topics we've been discussing to this point here on the show today is the news about Kyler Murray and the report that his camp would like the Cardinals to release him. What's the latest that you've seen at the Combine or heard about Kyler Murray, the Cardinals, and that entire situation?
I'm passing the news along to other people here on Radio Row. They're like, what? This is how insulated we are on Radio Row, by the way. We're like, draft. What? Something happened outside of this room? Okay, so Kyler Murray wants the team to release him. I feel like that would be probably, all right, trying to wrap my brain around this in real time. Several things are true here, and that is that the Cardinals are going to want to hold on to him to see what they can get for him in a market where everyone needs a quarterback. Like, there's so many quarterback needy teams. As we just finished a conversation here about the quarterbacks in the draft, and where does QB2 come off the board? And it's like, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm like workshopping a take. I'm not fully settled on this if QB2 doesn't come off the board till the third round, because I just don't think that people are really sold on any of these guys in the draft outside of Fernando Mendoza. So that's related in the sense that free agency is going to come first. And so if these teams, and I've counted 9, that literally have to find a guy who could start for them next year, and the Cardinals are one of them, and they're going to be looking for these quarterbacks. I don't know that they're going to find a quarterback in the draft outside of Fernando. They're going to feel comfortable putting on the field week one, starting for them. And so that means that these guys in free agency get a bump in value. We've certainly heard a lot of conversations about Malik Willis to that effect. And so, is there a team out there that's going to look at the lay of the land and go, oh my God, like, we don't want to be the team left over with no quarterback here in the game of musical chairs that is willing to actually give up something in order to bring in Kyler Murray and just assume that the environment was problematic and like it hasn't really been that bad and that kind of stuff. So if I'm the Cardinals, I'm probably having some really serious conversations this week in Indy with a lot of teams to try and figure out if I can possibly get something in return. They're not going to just outright release him unless they're hearing that he's not valued enough that they can get anything for him. And so that paints a secondary picture of the Kyler Murray situation, right?
Yeah.
All right, Lindsay, let's get back to the young folks, the up-and-comers. Who's the most polarizing player on the board and how they're being talked about down in Indianapolis as we get closer to the draft here next month?
I feel like, and this, I don't want this to sound like a cop-out, but legit, almost everyone. And it's not that they're polarizing so much. It's that I don't know that I'm finding that people love people outside of Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs, or like the two names that I keep hearing when we ask, like, who's the best player in the draft? But even when you ask a draft analyst, who's the best player in the draft, a lot of them kind of sit and think for a minute. And I think that that is related to the class makeup in general is not stacked with a lot of like really elite guys. So even the best players in the draft at various positions have kind of like obvious flaws, or flaws if you're going to really get into it and say like, okay, we're going to use a top 5 pick on this guy, that kind of thing. They all have red flags attached to them in some way, shape, or form. It's not a class that has a lot of, or many, or maybe any, like that's a slam dunk blue chip guy. And that changes the entire conversation about the draft, because then you start having conversations about Jeremiah Love, somebody who people do seem to agree about, but he's at a position that people in a perfect world don't want to draft in the first round at all, And so then I think we're going to have a draft this year where positional value in some ways kind of goes out the window for a lot of teams, just because there's less opportunity cost in taking those guys like a safety or a linebacker or a running back, because you're not missing out on a high-end edge rusher or offensive tackle or quarterback.
Lindsay Rose from Sumer Sports, live from the NFL Combine, on the phone with Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean Little in for Abdalla today. Lindsay, when we talk about Fernando Mendoza, what is the high-level ceiling upside for the quarterback? We know that he won the Heisman. He won the national title. We know he's likely to be the number 1 pick. What are you hearing people say about Mendoza as far as how good he can be in the NFL?
Well, he's an interesting one because in terms of the types of traits that people typically talk about at this time of year, I don't think that he has high-end traits. I don't think that he's a guy that in a different year, they're not like raving about him, even though it's a given that he's going to be number 1. But what I think is really interesting about him is the areas of his strengths feel like they are a little bit more intangible. And the quarterback position is the one position for which intangibles are actually the most important thing. So at Super Bowl, we talked to a bunch of quarterbacks here at Sumer Sports and ran through like different things like arm strength and mobility and mental processing and kind of stack rank these things. And none of them even hesitated. They were like, mental processing, number 1, not even thinking about it. Now let's have a discussion about the other things. So at this time of year, people talk about like arm strength. I think you can get away with whatever his arm strength is, as long as it's adequate and he can make certain throws, then I think he's fine. If the mental processing is very good, and it seems as if it is, then the question becomes, can you put him in an environment where you can maximize his strengths and minimize his weaknesses? And that, I think, is a fascinating conversation with relationship with the Raiders in particular, because you're bringing in Kubiak, who I think, if you literally just looked at the Seahawks and what they did to put Sam Darnold in ideal positions this year, it's like, and just lifted that picture and placed it on the Raiders, then you've got a really good recipe in place. And so I think that in some ways it's kind of a good marriage in a way, it also impacts the Max Crosby conversation, because I think as much as they would not ideally like to trade Max Crosby, I can kind of wrap my brain around it if I think their number one and only thing that matters for the next couple of years is trying to put Fernando Mendoza in a position to succeed and protect him, which means all of your assets, if you only have a few assets and you've got a ton of holes, they have to go on the offensive side of the ball. You need a better O-line, more depth on the O-line. You need better pass catchers for him to throw to. You're obviously good at tight ends. You're good at running back. They need to upgrade those weapons and those people around him so that he can look as good as possible early on and you don't lose him, which might lead to the trade of Max Crosby in order to collect more assets.
I think that's very well said. If you're going to rebuild.
Yeah.
Move off the guys that are worth something. That's what you got to do to surround yourself with your number one pick and give him the best opportunity to succeed. Lindsay, you had a really interesting conversation with Jordan Reed. Since we're talking about quarterbacks, let's stay on that token. Ty Simpson, where are you at with the Alabama prospect? And I also want to tie in Carson Beck. What are you hearing? Where are you at with Ty Simpson of Alabama and Carson Beck of Miami?
So Ty Simpson in particular, the thing that everybody says, and the people that we have asked, who's QB2? He's the answer. The concern is that it's always followed by, but I'm concerned about the number of starts. And then you list the number of starts that he has had, and you list other people who have had a low number of starts in the league, and you start to kind of paint a picture of like, gosh, that development's pretty important, you know? And so you want to give him a chance to prove that he can do it, but again, there's a red flag attached to him. Carson Beck is a guy who, this is not the preeminent thing, but I think it's an interesting stat that kind of popped in our evaluation of him. He's a guy who has a low sack rate. If you go to our draft guide on sumersports.com, it shows that his sack rate is incredibly low, very, very good. It also shows that he has a high number of pressure to pocket attempt, that he has a high rate of that. So the pressure comes and he still gets off a throw. That's good. You know, you don't want to take a lot of sacks. He doesn't. He's still keeping the ball in play. Okay, that said, we also have a model that evaluates every play on a frame-by-frame basis for every player in every game, and it evaluates them in a whole bunch of different ways. And so we'll create metrics and scores in a variety of different traits. And we have a sack awareness trait, and he has a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, why are those two numbers incredibly different? It's because our sack avoidance trait measures the probability of a sack happening 2 seconds into the play. So the offensive line is given a certain period of time in which they are expected to hold the block. Okay, now after that time has elapsed, what's the probability of a sack coming? And if it's 80% that a sack is going to come and the quarterback avoids the sack somehow, either throwing it away, escaping, scrambling, whatever, then he gets a positive score because he has avoided that. Or vice versa, if it's a 20% probability at 2 seconds and you take a sack, false, right? So it's interesting that like, it's a perfect example of how different numbers can look like they're telling a story, and then those are like both sack-related stats. But so you've got a low sack rate, you might even have a low pressure to sack rate. But when it is specifically a situation that is your fault, are you good at avoiding it or not? And he's an interesting guy to keep an eye on in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are fascinating stats. Absolutely. Lindsay Rhodes, live from the Combine, joining Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. Sean Little in for Abdalla today. Lindsay, you mentioned all the different teams that need a quarterback here in this offseason. Is there somebody that you look at, a team in the NFL that people are not talking about that could surprise us and take a quarterback earlier than we would expect? I know that we covered Ty and we covered Mendoza and those two spots where they could go. Is there a team kind of lurking that could maybe jump and surprise people and take a quarterback out of this class?
Well, I think the ones that I have that I think that need quarterbacks, and tell me if you think I'm missing anybody. I've got obviously the Raiders, I've got the Jets, I've got the Cardinals, the Browns, the Dolphins, the Steelers. I have the Falcons, the Vikings, and the Colts as guys who I think have options.
Yeah.
But you know, might want to take someone anyway. So that's where I'm getting my 9. And then I have written down here Rams and Panthers, because I think the Rams are going to be looking for somebody to like try and get ahead of the Matthew Stafford.
Sure.
Like obviously he's getting older. And then I have the Panthers written down too, but that would not be an early. I don't see them taking an early one, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't take like a later round, like a third or a late round guy, and just took one of these guys off the board, put him on the bench, because I think that this is a really important year for the Panthers to get a read on Bryce Young. They have to understand what they have in him by the end of the year so that they understand if they're going to extend him or what they want to do with him. And I think that he's one of those guys that's a like right on the fence guy. And so I think it would be smart to just throw a dart later on and just kind of get some time evaluating somebody in your building, but later, so that it doesn't really matter if you don't use him and you go back to that well next year, but you're getting a head start on it. It's another reason why I think I've heard a lot of defensive talk surrounding the Panthers and them going with an edge or something, or a tackle, something like that in the first round. There's a big part of me that thinks that they might need to have their number one goal this offseason be to beef up their offense in the way that I described earlier for Fernando Mendoza. Because if you don't know what to do with your quarterback at the end of this year, you are in a roster building like no man's land. You have to have an answer, yay or nay. So put all of the resources behind figuring that out so that there are no excuses for not having information by the end of the year. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't go with another wide receiver or an offensive tackle there. But the Panthers are a fascinating offseason story for me in a number of different ways, because also they made the playoffs. And I think a lot of teams who don't have good process would say, let's double down. Let's go all in. We made the playoffs. And I think that they're a team who is very low in the league. Like, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but like 24th or lower in EPA per play on offense. That's not good. So that means that you sort of got some lucky bounces this year, but you need to get a lot better as a team. And I think that they're a smart organization these days that will probably understand where they actually are in the lay of the land and build smartly, rather than throwing a bunch of money at free agents and saying, let's go win it all, when they're not actually in a position to do that.
Lindsay, let's have some fun. We've been talking serious football for the last couple minutes.
I'm sorry.
We're always having fun. But Lindsay, we were talking serious.
It's great. I know. I love it. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we were talking serious ball. But tell me your favorite combine workout you like to watch. Is it the bench press? Is it the 40? Is it quarterbacks throwing? Is it the cone drill? What do you enjoy looking at and going over?
I mean, look, we all like the 40. The 40's, I mean, the correlation between the 40 and actual draft success is a totally different story. I don't think it actually matters that much, but I think we all love watching it. It's like watching a track event, right? It has like a built-in easy storyline, easy competition, who's where on the leaderboard. I think it's made for TV. I think it's one of the reasons that the Combine is even watched by anyone. If you didn't show the 40, would people tune in to be like, hold on, honey, I need to watch this 3-cone drill? You know, like, I don't
Easy,
know
Lindsay, that might be me this weekend. Easy.
Well, you just heard me nerd out for like 15 minutes.
No,
okay,
I know.
like you
I'm
know
with
that
you.
I actually would enjoy that. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, in terms of getting ratings and it being popular and it having turned in, I am standing on a radio row in Indianapolis in a convention center that is 5 rows of people from it's a massive room and it is full of people. It would never have become this way. Never. If the 40s weren't televised. It just wouldn't be. It's hugely popular because it's easy to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Lindsay, before we let you go, we enjoy talking to you and we appreciate you stopping by at the Super Bowl when we were there, and you're fantastic. Can you tell us about the work that you're doing with Sumer Sports and then also what you have on YouTube coming up for the draft?
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I'm going to, in the interest of time, because the number of products that the smart people that I work with, that I take no credit for, have built out in the past year is just wild. So go to sumersports.com and just play around if you're at all interested in any of the nerdy data points that I've been mentioning here today, because the stuff that they built was fascinating. I'll direct you to Sumer Live without getting too into that. Just pull it up and look at the data there, and then understand that each one of those data points populated after every single play live as the game was happening. But the one thing that I want to draw your attention to right now is the evaluation, which is our draft show that we launched 2 weeks ago. Episode 3 actually airs tonight, maybe in just a couple of hours. It'll go up on YouTube at the Sumer Sports YouTube page. And it's a draft show that we did with a bunch of different people on our team. Mike Mayock is back doing draft analysis. Some of our former general managers and scouts, we kind of pulled them out of the shadows and made them open their notebooks begrudgingly and talk about all of their scouting techniques and their evaluations of the players in this year's class. But then also we interject with our data and say, here's what the data sees for these guys. And then we have a roundtable conversation where we sit down and talk about all of these big picture things that we're all talking about here, but you're talking about it with the actual scouts and with the general managers. And it feels very much like you are kind of a fly on the wall inside a front office building up to the draft. Like, what do you actually, which things matter and which things don't matter? And can you take a running back in the first round? And how does that discussion actually go down in a front office? It's a fascinating, it was so fun for me to be a part of it. I think the show is really good, and I'd love it if you guys would check it out. If you're a fan of the draft, I think you'll really enjoy it.
We absolutely will. Thank you, Lindsay. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks for having me, guys.
There she is, Lindsay Rhodes, Sumer Sports, the evaluation. Mike Mayock's a part of it. Big E, the former wrestler, the WE wrestler, is a part of it. And they put together data and then the scouting. And you put it all together, and they've got a show. It's really great. We'll check it out as well. It's Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Sean Little filling in for Abdalla today. We were talking earlier about Anthony Richardson. The Colts have told him that he can seek a trade. We have a team that has mutual interest. We'll tell you what team is interested in possibly trading for Richardson next.
How long will the Steelers wait for a decision from Aaron Rodgers? Or could Mike McCarthy and company be in the market for a QB like Malik Willis in free agency? Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Is Bleck and Abdalla on Westwood One Sports. Here's Chris Bleck and Adam Abdalla.
Bleck and Abdalla, noon to 3 Eastern each and every weekday right here on Westwood One Sports. Jim Rome coming up in 12 minutes. Check out the Bleck and Abdalla podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Odyssey. And make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Bleck and Abdalla Show. We stream the show live each and every day right there on YouTube. Sean Little in today for Adam Abdalla. And Bleck and Abdalla is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Save on commercial auto insurance from Progressive. Get a fast quote at progressivecommercial.com. So the Minnesota Vikings are the team that's mutually interested in Anthony Richardson. The reports from ESPN that the Vikings are interested. Richardson was told by the Colts earlier today he can seek a trade. Minnesota would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it, Sean?
Absolutely. I think it's a great fit. Kevin O'Connell has proved that he has that quarterback whisper in him. What he did with Sam Darnold was awesome. I think that seeped into the run this year to win the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. I think if he could go back, I think deep down, Kevin O'Connell wanted to keep Sam Darnold. I have a proven guy here that I know can play, will continue to get better. We will weed out those struggles that he had against the Lions to close the year and in the playoffs. We could grow on what we just built, and between him and the front office and a lot of different moving parts, J.J. McCarthy had to be a guy that you gave a look, right? So I think it's a great fit. Young talent. We just talked about he's only 23 years old, still Anthony Richardson, has all the tangible, physical things you would want out of a quarterback, and I think Kevin O'Connell will be able to help on the mental side of the game.
Yeah, so that's the latest, is that the Vikings are mutually interested in Anthony Richardson seeking a trade from the Colts. Bleck and Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. Make sure you check this out later on tonight. Our guy, Josh Graham, he'll be joining the show tomorrow to preview the college basketball weekend. He has the coach of the #1 team in the country joining him tonight on the show. That's right, Duke men's basketball head coach Jon Scheyer will be on Westwood One Sports Night tonight at 11:20 Eastern Time. Here's a little preview of that conversation with Scheyer.
True or false, you schedule early off-season non-conference home games 2 days apart in order to simulate the one-day preps you'll see in the NCAA tournament.
True.
True or false, despite Michigan and Duke being Nike schools, you requested that you both play with a Wilson ball last weekend rather than a Nike ball because you'll be using Wilson balls in the tournament.
True.
One more, true or false, you scheduled the Michigan game in Washington, D.C. because that's the same building that hosts a regional in the East bracket, and there's a chance you might be playing there in the Sweet 16 or early day.
That's not fully true. It's not fully false. That played a part in it, but also you're looking for neutral ground somewhere in between. And we had played in New York. We had played in Chicago. Naturally, Washington was the right fit for many reasons.
I'm glad the answer was maybe, because that would not be normal behavior, John.
Look, I'll admit to you, I don't think I'm normal with my behavior. So I have no problems admitting that, but that's not, I also want to tell you the truth, which it wasn't fully just true and it wasn't fully just false.
That's outstanding. So make sure you check that out tonight. Josh Graham with Duke men's basketball head coach Jon Scheyer on Westwood One Sports Night tonight, 11:20 Eastern Time. Make sure you check that out. Josh will join the show tomorrow as we will preview the college basketball weekend. And Westwood One Sports is your official home for the NCAA men's basketball tournament. We have more inside perspective and big interviews leading up to the tournament. And we will be at the Final Four with updates, live shows, bracketologist Brad Evans, and the Westwood One Sports Final Four insider Josh Graham will be there. So we got you all covered right here on Westwood One Sports as we get set for tourney time. I mean, we come back from the weekend, and March will be staring us right in the face, Sean, as we get started. Before we go and hand off the airwaves to Jim Rome here on Westwood One Sports, Raj in Denver, Colorado, doing a great job producing today's show, producing every day's show, killing it. Raj, you want to bring something to our attention before we go in the next minute or so.
This clip only gets played once a year, so it is today. It's February the 26th. 14 years ago today, legendary bowler Pete Weber had this iconic moment.
To claim it, a strike to claim it.
Who do you think you are? I am. What a line. Is that the greatest bowling highlight of all time? That's the only bowling highlight.
I don't know another
right,
bowling highlight.
Right? Who's the greatest? I am.
The combination of I did it with the glasses, if you've seen the video with the call, it's unbelievable. And for you to, if you think about what he's saying, who do you think whatever you think about yourself, that's
me.
Get out of here.
I'm the guy.
Who do you think
you are? I am. What a line. And it is. It's like the only bowling highlight that I can recall in my entire life. And thank you, Raj. Thank you for playing that 14 years ago today. Pete Weber. He's also probably the only bowler you know outside of yourself and your friends, right? Sean, thank you for hanging out with me today. It was a blast.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.
It was a ton of fun. I hope to be back soon.
Jim Rome and the Jim Rome Show is coming up next right here on Westwood One Sports. Talk to you tomorrow.
This is Westwood One Sports.